You have one precious life. How will you make your money work for you? It's time for Sage Money Conversations, where your financial happiness and confidence are always the subject. Here's your host, certified financial planner, Barbara Norman.
Hi there. So we're here today with Colleen Houck, who is a workplace expert with Fortune 500 companies. She helps them retain their critical female talent and turns them into top-tier women leaders. So Colleen, welcome. Thank you for being here with us. I just love your story. Here you are, a busy mom with really a wild career. And what attracted me to you is we were having a discussion about work-life balance and how you said you absolutely do not like that term at all. It's really the and life that women should be looking for. And so tell me about the and life, if you would.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Barbara. Really excited to be here as well. So I was in the corporate world and about 11 years into my corporate experience, I received a promotion. So going into 2013, I said, yes, this promotion met my professional and my financial goals. But I pretty much had blinders on to everything else, any other way that promotion was going to impact my life. So I went into 2013, I took on this promotion, which meant I was taking on a bunch of other people's work. And because I never want to fail, I never want to let down my manager, my employer, my clients, I really sacrificed everything. I mean, I was sleeping only about 4 or 5 hours every single night for months. Brutal. I was missing all of my doctors and dentist appointments. I had no social life. I wasn't seeing any of my friends. And at the time, I still had 3 kids at home. Jordan, Ethan, and Reese are my kids. And my husband, Matt, later shared with me, the moment you walked in the house, we were on high alert. And it was because at the end of these work days, I just had nothing but leftovers to give my family. Everything was used up in my work world. So I would just come home and yell and scream at my family. I mean, I still tell Matt to this day, I don't understand how you didn't pack up our kids and leave me. So that carried on for 13 months, this just constant fighting to survive, fighting to get enough sleep and just hang on by a thread. And then finally, at the end of 2013, it sounds so mundane, but this is how it happens, right? It's the most mundane of things that just break you. After over a year, it was me missing a holiday party for an association that I was a board member on. And I missed it because I was stuck in the office until 7 o'clock at night, working on something last minute that my boss wanted to be changed. And that's where I lost it. I sat in the office and just said, that's it. I quit. But the challenge is that I was actually the primary source of our income. I'm the one who paid the mortgage and put food on the table for our family. And so it was like, how in the world am I going to quit this? And by the way, I actually really love working, but how could I do this without drowning every day? How could I do this without actually having that pack up and leave? So I fortunately had a coach in my kind of resources, right? It's always great to pre-vet resources. So I already had contact with a coach. I immediately started working with her on January 6th of 2014, just a few weeks after that, and completely changed everything that I was doing. And the irony is that it was about me. It was about me making the changes. I ended up getting promoted again at that same company, and I stayed there for another 4 years.
Okay, wait a minute.
Yes.
4 hours of sleep. Your family's in disarray. I mean, that's not why we live. And you get a promotion. Wait, what changed? Share with us, how did you do that? How did you get back in?
Yeah. So, one of the things that happened when I was going through, that year was I complained constantly and I blamed everyone else. I mean, I blamed my boss for giving me the promotion. I mean, how ridiculous is that to blame your boss for giving you a promotion? I blamed my husband. He had his own business at the time and, he could just kind of roll downstairs and start his workday while I'm getting ready and commuting. And I was traveling a lot. So I'm in airports at 5:30 in the morning. I blamed stay-at-home moms. I was stop, posting on Facebook that you're at Disneyland while I'm stuck in Denver airport. I was blaming everyone. But the reality was I was the one to blame. It was my choice to say yes to that promotion. It was my choice to try to take on everything in the household. And so, as hard as that was to admit and really take ownership of, the beautiful, positive, good news is that, well, if I was the one to make the choices to get me where I was, then I could equally be the one to make the choices to get me out. And that's really what it was about. It was about me starting to understand, what are my priorities? Where do I need to refocus? Where do I need to ask for help, both personally at home through, either Matt, my husband, or friends or other extended family? And where could I speak up and communicate and ask for help at work? None of those things I had done during the 13 months. It took that burnout for me to finally recognize and make those major shifts. And, again, I was able to get another promotion, stayed at the company, reconnected with Matt. My kids started thriving. And as you mentioned, Barbara, it's what I really learned how to live, what I call the and life, where you don't have to choose, where you can have a powerful career and an extraordinary personal life.
Okay, so that is really, really remarkable. And I think that's typical of a lot of women is I can do it. We don't stop. We don't ask for help. How common is that? So yes. You could say to get from A to B, so you started, what are the 3 critical things that people do? So stop and ask for help. How do you set up those boundaries and those timeframes, with your work, your family? Because I'm sure they expected you to still work 20 hours a day and do the output. How did that shift happen?
Yeah. So number one, we talk about having it all. And it's funny because there's actually websites dedicated to how having it all is BS, right? This is not attainable. Well, I actually believe you can have it all. But the first thing you have to do is define what having it all means to you.
Okay.
Too often we sit and we think having it all is based upon, how we were raised by our parents definition, or definitions of another peer, a coworker, or definitions based on friends, or God forbid, social media, right? So too often we sit and we look at other people's lives and we think that's what having it all means. And then, of course, if you try to attain that, you can't have it all because that's not what it is for you.
Right.
So the first part really is defining what having it all means to you. What does that look like? What is professional success, personal success, health, finances? What does that look like for you? And we just too often kind of just get sucked into the circle of life. And we go through life unintentionally. And we don't take the time to just sit down and stop and say, okay, let me spend 5 minutes today and then 15 minutes in 2 days and really think about what it is I want. So that's the first part. Then once you know what the definition of having it all means to you, you mentioned, Barbara, those boundaries, right? Well, then it's about saying yes or no. It's knowing what you're going to commit to. So I'll give you an example. Leading up to 2013, I mentioned that I missed that holiday party for an association. It was the Network of Executive Women. And I had been on the committee and the board for a few years. And it was wonderful. I had a lot of great connections. I learned a lot. New opportunities were available to me. But after I hit that burnout and defined what having it all meant to me, I had to stop and say, okay, does participating in that network support my new definition of what having it all means to me? And while it had given me good opportunities, it no longer served that new definition. So I had to say no to that. And it was hard. I certainly made sure I fulfilled on my commitments. I didn't leave people high and dry, but it was hard because there were some things I liked about it. But when I really sat down and evaluated, I had to say, no, it just doesn't align anymore. So that every single thing that started to come into my life, opportunities to go out with a friend for coffee. Okay, well, does that align? For me, it did, because I knew I needed to re-engage my friendship. So I would say yes to that, but I would say no to something else, right? You only have so many hours in the day, right? We say time is your only non-renewable resource. For every minute that you spend, you can't get it back. So it's about choosing how you spend each and every minute of your time.
Doesn't that make a lot of sense? Wow. Okay, so you were in this thing, you got a promotion. Now, at some point, you decided you were going to pull the plug on this company, and talk a little bit about when you pulled the plug and started your own business. What did that look like? What challenges did you have? How did that go for you?
Yeah. So when I started working on myself in 2014, I did have this kind of spark that someday in the future, I will have a business. But I really didn't know what that was going to look like. I tried to kind of follow in my coach's footsteps. So I became a certified coach, and I would host little retreats at my home. Really, the point was, I just wanted to tell other women how I was surviving. And I shouldn't say that, how I was thriving, not surviving.
Right.
Because I'll share with you, Barbara, that when I was going through those challenges, I really, the blaming and complaining was only happening either in my own head or with my husband, Matt. I thought everyone around me, all these executive women that I worked with, I just thought they had their stuff together. I thought I'm not opening my big mouth and telling people that I'm challenged, because I don't want to seem incompetent. So I had this, facade. I showed up, everybody thought everything was fine. And so what I learned shortly after, when I started to work on myself, I felt compelled one day, a coworker of mine, I was standing in the doorway of her office, and I just felt compelled to start telling her what had gone on the year prior and how I was starting to come out of it. And she just sat there staring at me. She wasn't saying a word. I was freaking out, thinking, oh my gosh, she thinks I'm a lunatic or I'm incompetent. She's going to go tell someone. And after I paused for a moment, she says, I'm so sorry for not saying anything, but it's like I'm looking in a mirror. I just had the same conversation over the weekend.
Wow.
And that's when I realized there are so many women, right? We try to take on everything. We wear this cape to make it seem like we're superwoman, when in reality, most of us are struggling all the same. Right. So when I kind of incorporated and started my business, I just really wanted to start sharing my story and sharing my strategies, but I didn't really know what it was going to look like. And as I mentioned, I stayed at my company for 4 more years. It wasn't until we had our first round of major layoffs, and they came to me and said, Colleen, your position is being eliminated, but they offered me my same role on another team. But I said, I took it as a sign that this was my time to move on. So in terms of finances, I did have, roughly 5 months of severance that really helped support, because my husband at the time still had his own business that was doing okay, but it certainly wasn't going to replace the income that I had from my career. So I made the decision to take the leap and use that severance, stretch it out as much as possible, make changes in our life. Like, where could we cut back and make sure that we're, thinking about the future. So that was the first 5 months of how I got started.
And how did your family deal with that? That's some major stressors. All of a sudden an income is gone and you've got to say no to kids, no to husband. Tell me, how did those conversations go?
Yes. So, as as in the financial world, the communication about finances is one of the hardest ones, right? And we've been very blessed. I had a wonderful career. I did very well financially. So we had to become accustomed to a certain lifestyle. And now with both my husband and I having our own businesses, his was doing okay. Mine obviously was just getting started. So it was about the 5-month mark that I said, okay, we have to just sit down and have a real conversation. I know we don't like to talk about money. I know we don't like, it's scary to think that what if, but here's the deal. I told my husband, I said, I don't want us to wait and then get in a situation where all of a sudden we're 30 days out and we're making rash decisions. We've come so far in building financial stability and having investments and being out of debt. I don't want to make rash decisions based on emotion and fear. So let's start the conversation now. And neither one of us wanted to do it, but we did. We said, okay, so if we weren't able to, increase our revenue by X% and replace this, what are our options? And we decided, because we live in Southern California, and obviously the cost of living in Southern California is very high. We said, let's start looking at other places to move. And that's what we did. We spent the next 30 days researching, what's the equity in our home? How much could we get if we moved somewhere else? And what would that look like? And we were about 98% positive we were relocating out of state. Matt and I spent an entire week in just outside Raleigh, North Carolina, home searching. But as the universe would have it, he was offered an completely unexpected job opportunity that was in his same field, and he took it. And so we kind of did this little role reversal where I get to work on my business and he has the more of the stable income coming in to support us. But it was that early conversation that we had to have.
Those are tough to have. And like you said, people don't like to have those conversations. They're difficult, they're heated, and a lot of people, unfortunately, don't. So I congratulate you on that.
So thank you.
And now, here you are, you've got this wonderful, successful business of coaching, mentoring. You've been my coach for a while, and I really appreciate that. Always the best information. So let's roll the clock forward a little bit. Here we are, not post-COVID, but hopefully in the 9th inning of COVID, we're hoping.
Right.
And a significant number of women have left the workplace. And this is it's a travesty, because we're back to, I think you said 1980 levels of women leaving the workforce. And what does that do to personal wealth? What does that do to our career goals? What does that do to as women, our financial security, the choices we have for ourselves down the road? And so for women who've left the workplace, thinking about leaving the workplace, how do we get them back in? Because it is an economic crisis personally and also for the economy. So let's talk about that, because you have some great ideas.
Yes. So, women have always had a unique journey when it comes to the workplace, but 2020 absolutely disproportionately impacted women. They were forced to make decisions between being in the workforce or taking care of, kids as they were pushed out of schools. And again, they've always had this unique journey, but it was really, really off the mark in 2020. And as you mentioned, it's really set us up for some challenges personally, as well as, we're stalling economic growth as a whole. Yep. So in 2020, we've had over 2 million women leave the workforce. That's a 27% higher attrition rate than men. And McKinsey recently reported that women leaving the workforce at higher rates than men, it's the first time that they've seen that. And unfortunately, as you said, it's bringing us back to the levels of women in the workforce back to 1988. So we are now 3 decades behind all of this progress. And again, even though we've had progress, the progress has been painfully slow to begin with. So now we are stepping backward. And, unfortunately, I don't blame women who were forced to make these decisions, right? I can only imagine. I'm in a different situation. I feel very blessed that I did not have to make that decision. But if possible, stop to really think about the impact. And if we're just going to talk financial impact, so the Center for American Progress has a tool. They've estimated that when women leave the workforce, it costs up to 4 times their annual salary.
Wow.
Because it's not just about that 1 or 2 years worth of salary that are missing. It's the benefits. It's whether, if an employer contributes toward your retirement. It's the compound interest by you no longer investing. Also, women don't realize this, but when they leave, they aren't necessarily guaranteed to come back in at the same level as when they left. So let's say you take 5 years out of the workforce, you're not starting back where you left. You are potentially farther behind and taking a lower salary when you re-enter the workforce. So just to put some dollars into this, the average college educated woman, when she takes 5 years out of the workforce, it's over $785,000 in lost opportunity.
Wow.
And for the woman who is earning six figures, it adds up to over $1 million lost. So, Barbara, one of the things, I work so closely with women, whether that's through coaching or training, I want them to understand that you don't always have to leave the workforce, right? Have that and life. And one of the things I'll share.
I am blown away. Let me just drive
yes.
for a minute. $1 million in an account in retirement. If I can get 6% on that, that's $60,000 in my retirement that I am giving up. It's a life-changing decision. And oh my gosh, thank you for driving that one home, because I never thought about that. That is huge. Okay, back to you.
Yes, no, thank you. So it is. And we often just think of, that 1 year. I'm going to take a year off and I'm just going to lose whatever my salary is. And, no, first of all, no, it's not. It's up to 4 times that. Plus 1 year can easily turn into 2, 3, 4, 5. So And again, over time, you're just losing more and more. And again, recognize that life isn't just about money, but there are strategies, there are ways to have that and life where you can continue to have the finances coming in. And even, for women who are like you and me, who actually enjoy working, when you leave the workforce, you're pulling a piece of your passion, of your energy, of your heart away from your own personal identity. So I'm going to share with you, Barbara, so that your team can post it in the show notes, the link to a calculator where you can enter, if you're female, how old you are currently, how long you're going to be out of the workforce, what your current annual salary is, and it'll calculate the estimated losses so that you can get a more of a hard fact number before making those decisions.
Right. Informed decisions. And where else can we get something like that? That's huge, huge.
Yes. So we also saw that not only are women, prior to the pandemic, women are more likely to take on the housework, especially if they're working moms. They're more likely to take on housework and childcare. And that added up to about 20 hours, 20 additional hours per week that women were putting in. And just this morning, Barbara, I read an article, new research has come out that during the pandemic, that increased to over 30 hours a week for women, which is now nearly another full-time job. So no wonder they're facing burnout. We've seen burnout at, huge heights, and burnout is not something to kind of scoff at. It is an actual diagnosable condition. The World Health Organization has put burnout as an officially diagnosable condition. And it is when you have chronic workplace stress that is not managed appropriately. And so when we've got the workplace stress going on, we put on top of that any financial stress, we put on top the childcare and household responsibilities. Exactly like you said, it's no wonder that women have been leaving in droves over the last 18 months. So it is.
How do we hold up the career? How do we hold up the family? And now how do we educate our kids when we're not even teachers? So much for women to deal with or without a pandemic. So I think burnout, you're right. Burnout is huge.
It is. And, one of the things I would offer is an additional strategy, kind of going back to the and life, but it's tied into burnout, is that, while you may be waiting, and I never want you to wait, but you may be thinking, I need to wait for my workplace to offer childcare solutions, or I need, bigger policy changes to happen. I get it. I recognize that there are some bigger issues at hand nationally here in the US. I mean, we are the only country that is part of an organization that does not offer mandatory parental leave. So I recognize that there's bigger policy issues, but you can't afford to wait for that. So you as an individual can absolutely take control of certain things. And that communication we talked about earlier, that's one of the big things, is that you don't assume that your manager knows that you are on the verge of burnout. Don't assume that because your manager also has kids and seems to be balancing everything. Don't assume they know exactly what you're going through, because everyone's situation is so unique and dynamic that you have the ability to go in and say, hey, can we have a conversation? Let me tell you what's going on. Let me tell you what my challenges are. And can we brainstorm on solutions? Like, do not sit and wait for other things to happen. You matter most.
Are three really good questions. Would you say those again? Because I don't want that to get by our audience, because having that discussion with an employer is scary. So would you just please repeat those 3 sentences?
Yes. So here's what's on my plate. Here's what my challenges are, and how can we come up with solutions together, right? It's just about that communication, and you have to take charge and do it. And it's not easy to do, but what's easier, sitting here burning out and getting frustrated, or taking control and opening up the lines of communication to see what possibilities are there that you don't even know about? So as much as it is a responsibility of organizations and managers to help support employees, and especially working women with, potential burnout, at the end of the day, it's each individual's responsibility to raise their hand, open up the line of communications, and say, I need help. Can we figure this out together?
Colleen, you are an absolute gem. I could sit and ask questions all day long, and I want our listeners to be able to contact you. If we're not with a Fortune 500 company, but we want to certainly be in your circle, have you help us, have us get through those burnouts. How do we live the and life? So how do our listeners find you so they can continue this discussion?
Yeah. So Barbara, one of the things I wanted to do was provide a free download. It's the 5 mistakes that are flaming your burnout. So what are those 5 mistakes and how to fix them? So I do have a free download. So your listeners can text the number 33777 and just type the word burnout. So burnout to 33777. I'll send a free download. And then they can also find me on my website at ColleenHauck.com, and we'll make sure that we put those in the show notes for everyone as well.
That would be great. Oh my gosh, Colleen, thank you so much. You've given us so much great information, and I appreciate you sharing your journey and your story, because I think a lot of us are in that situation, afraid to talk about it, but thank you for opening that discussion and giving us the help that we need. Thank you so much. You have a great day.
You're welcome, Barbara. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Advisory services are offered through Barbara J. Norman, LLC, an investment advisor in the states of California and Texas. The information contained herein should in no way be construed or interpreted as a solicitation to sell, nor an offer to sell advisory services to any residents of any state other than the state of California, or where otherwise legally permitted. All content is for information purposes only. It is not intended to provide any tax or legal advice or provide the basis for any financial decisions. The information contained in this material has been derived from sources believed to be reliable, but is not guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness, and does not purport to be complete analysis of the materials discussed. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of SagePath Solutions and are subject to change without notice.